Hi, I'm Nate, and this is Nate's Road Life. So today, we're going to be putting some auto start on this SA200. And you might be thinking, why on earth do you want to put auto start on an SA200? Well, I'll explain that to you. So a while ago, I saw an ad. I don't remember if it was Lincoln or Miller, one of the two, but they've got their small gas welder, like the Bobcat or the Ranger, you know, whichever it was. But anyway, one of the things they were advertising was that it had remote start. And it's not remote start as in you just wake up in the morning and push it and it fires up like a truck does. You know, it's remote start in the sense of you go manually start it and it's running, and then you can push a button and it'll shut off, and then you can push a button again and it'll start up. And the claim with that was that it was handy if, you know, you had your welding lead strung out and you're 100 foot away from the welding machine and you're working on something, you just got done welding and you're not going to be welding for a while, you don't need any power, but you don't want to walk all the way to the welding machine and shut it off. You know, say you got to go through some fences and stuff, you know, you're building some fencing or corrals or whatever, you don't have to climb over everything, you just push a button and shut it off. That way you save fuel, it's not making much noise, and then when you're ready to go again, push a button, she fires back up, take off. And I thought, well, that can't be that hard to do. Surely somebody's done that before, you know, with an SA200. So I started looking online. I was looking on YouTube. I was looking at forums. I couldn't find anything. So I thought about it for a little while, and I came up with an idea that I think is going to work. So let's get the hood, take off this thing, so we can see a little bit better. And then I'll get back with you guys and I will explain to you a little bit of what I intend to do here. Alright, so now that we got the hood off of this thing, let me do a little bit more explaining. So these things are pretty simple machines, really. This is magneto driven. It doesn't have an electronic ignition, it's just a magneto. And how you shut a magneto off is you ground it, right? It has a ground wire that comes off the back. And whenever you put that wire to ground, it collapses the electronic field inside of that magneto, and it will no longer allow it to produce spark. So that's how you kill them. It really doesn't, there's almost no amperage there whenever you do that, okay? On the starter here, you know, your starter draws a lot of amperage, but your starter has a solenoid that controls that. It's like a relay, right? So you put power to that solenoid and it closes a relay, and then that relay is what actually deals with the high amperage draws of a starter. So here's my thought. I can do this with some smaller electronics. So this box here is a 4-channel relay that works off of a key fob, okay? And so you push a button and it will latch a relay, okay? You can set this to latching mode, which means that you push a button and let off of it and that relay stays latched, right? Or you can put it to momentary mode, where you push it and hold it and it stays latched as long as you hold it. When you let off of it, it unlatches, right? So think of it like a light switch if you don't know what a relay is. Think of the relay as your finger, right, turning the light switch on and off, okay? So whenever I push this button, it's gonna put power through this, which activates a magnet, which closes the contacts. So think of my finger as that magnet. Whenever you push the button, my finger turns on, I flip the switch, the light comes on, right? Whenever I push the button again, it quits feeding power to my finger turns off, it kills the lights, right? Same difference, essentially, in a nutshell. That's how a relay works. Now, this relay here claims that it's good for 20 amps. I tried to do some research on the starter solenoid of this. I can't imagine that it draws too much amperage, but there is a potential that it could draw a little bit more than 20 amps, possibly. So what I was reading was it said that they could draw up to 30 amps. That seems kind of like a lot to me, really. But anyway, just in case, I bought some. This is another relay, is all this is, but this is a 40 amp relay. So, and now I know this sounds complicated, but I'm going to take this relay here and use it to power this relay here. This relay is what's going to actually send power to the starter solenoid. So if we do some real quick explanation here, let me see if I can actually show you guys a little bit better. Get down here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna run power up to this wireless relay, okay? And then out of this relay, we're gonna run over to this relay, all right? Now when I push the button, this relay is going to latch, which is gonna send power to this relay, which is gonna cause this relay to latch. Once this relay latches, now it's gonna be closed. It's like turning that light switch on that we talked about, right? So once I turn that light switch on, now whatever I have coming in to the one side can go out the other. So if I run 12 volt power to the one side, once this closes, it's gonna feed 12 volt power out of the other side. I'm gonna run that side to this starter solenoid right here, which is then going to close this solenoid and activate the starter. So I hope that that makes sense. I'll try to do a better job of explaining this as we go. Then the last piece of this puzzle, which I should be able to just use this and not one of these, is for the magneto kill switch. So I'm gonna wire the ground for the magneto into this, and then when I push a button, it will kill the magneto. So my thought process is I'm gonna come out here and I'm gonna get it running by hand, right? I'll start it manually, work the choke, whatever I need to, okay? Drag your stuff out, you're doing whatever you're doing, you need to shut it off, you grab the key fob, you push a button, it kills the magneto, it shuts the machine off, okay? Now, once the machine dies, you push the button again and it unlatches, which then opens the magneto so it could run, right? You do whatever you want to do, and then when you're ready to go, you push the other button and it will start it up. Once it starts, you push the button again, so that way it unlatches the relay and the starter shuts off. So that's the thought here. I think it's going to work. I've got some wire and whatnot, so I'm not going to probably wire this up exactly how the final product is going to be. I think for right now, I'm just going to do like a temporary setup just so that we can make sure that everything's going to work. We can work any of the bugs out of it, you know, iron out the kinks. And then once we get it all set up, dialed in, we know it's going to work right, then we'll go ahead and get all the wires put in some wire loom and, you know, get it all, you know, make it look like something. That way it's not just a bunch of wires jumbled up, just running all over the place inside of here. So anyway, let's get after it. Okay, the first thing we need to do is get power so that way we can feed everything. So we can look at this. You've got power coming in from your battery right here. It goes to the starter solenoid, okay? This always has 12 volts so long as the battery is hooked up, okay? Now you got a wire that runs out of this, runs up to here, comes out right here, it goes to your alternator, all right? That is for charging. So your alternator makes power, comes out right here, goes through this line, comes to here, which is also a shared contact point with this, your starter wire from the battery. That way it can feed current back to your battery. So I can tap into this and get 12 volt from a couple of different places. I could go right here and get it, or I can go right there and get it, or I could go all the way to the battery and get it. But for sake of just trying to, you know, hide wires and make things look a little bit better, probably gonna wind up going either here or here. That way we can run it along with the other wires and it doesn't look like just a jumbled up mess. Also probably like to do something with these wires, get them put somewhere. But anyway, so we're going to tap into this, get some 12 volt power, and once I have a good 12 volt power source established, we will start wiring up some relays. All right, so I'm a little undecided about where I really want all of my wiring to be and exactly where I'm going to put these relays and stuff. So I'm going to leave all of this wiring a little long, just run it wild, if you will, for now. This is not necessarily the final location of all this stuff, but it'll do to get us working. I'm just trying to smash that wire for now, that way it'll hold it in place so I can kind of, you know, figure out how I'm going to run my wiring. Now, I do believe that I want my, I don't know how well you guys can see it. Heck, I'm probably in the way. Hopefully you guys can see. Up in here is where I'm thinking about putting them relays at. So I'm going to run some wiring over and try and just have enough that it'll reach up to there for now. All right, in an effort to reduce the amount of wiring running all over the place, I have bought some of these. It's called a bus bar, right? And so it's just got, as you see, a bunch of different screws in it, and it's all one common terminal, okay? So this here is going to be 12 volt coming in from somewhere, and I'm going to have a lot of other things that also need 12 volt, okay? So all I can do is take this and I can put it right here in one of these screws, and now this whole thing is electrified with 12 volts. So now I can tap into it in all these other screw locations, right? So long as I don't exceed the amperage allotted for this wire, it'll be okay. Now, it'd be easy to hook up a bunch of items to this that draw a whole bunch, and then you burn this wire up. So ways that you can protect about that, or protect this wire, is A, you can either plan it accordingly and make sure that you're not going to be attaching any loads that are going to be too much for this wire, or B, you put a fuse in line. I'm not going to put a fuse in line because altogether what I'm going to be drawing is next to nothing, and when I am drawing it, it's not going to be drawn for very long, so it's not going to allow this wire enough time to really get all that hot. So anyway, so we're going to run this thing up. I think I'm going to attach it to this. I'm not entirely for sure yet, but I think that I am going to attach it to this, so that way we can distribute power out from here. All right, I went ahead and pulled this gas tank off right quick, make it a little bit easier for you guys to be able to see, and so I don't have to kneel down to do everything. I can do everything standing up. So, all right, so we're just, like we talked about earlier, we're kind of temporarily running this wire just to see how exactly it's going to go. I think right here I'm going to come up like this, and then I'm going to come over and then up underneath here. I think I'm going to try and mount everything up underneath here, that way it's out of the way. It's up underneath the gas tank, so there's, in theory, it should be protected from the rain and, you know, anything else that might. Just trying to make sure too that I have enough wire. I'm pretty certain that I do, but I most definitely do. So we're gonna go ahead and strip this back just a little bit. Not gonna take a whole lot. And we are going to connect it to this bus bar here. Now I've got the battery disconnected, so this isn't actually going to be hot at the moment, but I'm just getting it all prepped up and ready. Something like that. Alright, now this here will be our positive side bus bar. I'll have one for the negative as well. Not at the moment though. So now from this, we're going to have to run power over to this. And this is our remote control relay. Let me see if I can get it open so you guys can kind of, here it is. So as you can see, you've got 4 relays right here, and here are the terminals for them. Each one of them has an A, B, and a C, and that is because you have normally opened and normally closed. And for those of you who don't know anything about a relay, A normally open means that whenever there's no power flowing through this, it is open. There's nothing can go through here. You know, it's like the light switch is turned off. But then you have normally closed, which means that when no power is going through this, it's not energized, it's normally closed. So it's latched. It's like having the light switch turned on. Okay. Well, on a relay like this, you can have it either way. So this middle one, let's just focus on these 3 screws right here. Okay, those 3 screws go to this one relay. The middle is what you have coming in. So let's say you have, in this case, 12 volts coming in, and you need to send it somewhere else, and you want to use this relay as a light switch. Okay, so 12 volts will be coming into the middle on B terminal. If you want it to be normally opened, which would mean that when you push the button, the relay would latch like a light switch, and then it would feed power, you'll hook it up to this A terminal here. But if you want it to be normally closed, which means that whenever there's no power going through this and it is unlatched, right, now then it'll still have power going through it, you would hook it up to the B terminal. All right, you can wire 2 things to the same relay if you wanted them to have 12 volt. If you wanted 12 volt to be going to something all the time, but if you wanted to switch it between which one was going, you could wire to one relay and use that and that. But anyway, that's just simple how a relay works. We're going to be using the B and A terminal because we want it to be normally open. Okay, so we're going to run 12 volt from this to here. Now this is to actually power all these relays, all right? And then we'll have to run 12 volt again from this into here, because that will be the 12 volt that we're actually going to send out. The 12 volt coming to here only operates the relays. It does not go out as line power somewhere else. So I'm going to run some power wires from here over to here, and then another one from here over to here, and get that all hooked up and ready to go, so that way then we can get prepared to hook up our actual relay that's going to be powering the starter itself to this. Okay, so I think that we have most of this positive wiring system wired up at this point. It looks like a bunch of jumbled up mess, and it is, but this is just temporary. It's going to get us through. So now we need a ground bus bar, so this is going to be our grounding bus bar. And so I'm going to run a wire from it off over to ground, and then we are going to start tapping everything else into this. So this is the ground for that relay. It needs to go into that. We need to run a ground from this side of the relay over to here. Then we're going to have another relay here, which is going to be a magneto kill. So we're going to have to run from it to ground. And anyway, so let's we're going to get started on this. Like I said, this is all just temporary wiring at this point in time. It's all subject to change. Once we figure out where we want to mount everything, that's going to, you know, play a factor into how all this works. So that's grounded. Now I need to cut a piece of wire to go from here to there, and then from here to there, and then we'll get it from here to ground, and then that should be most of everything for this at this point in time. It's a lot, I know. All right, y'all, so now we got the wiring not complete, but it's hooked up enough that we can kind of get an idea of what we're doing, you know. And so now I'm gonna start mounting this stuff. So I'm gonna drill little pilot holes with a small bit, and then just run some little lath screws in there. So anyway, we'll punch me a few pilot holes and run them screws in there and get this stuff mounted up. All right, y'all, so now that I've got all this stuff mounted where it needs to go, I'm gonna go ahead and start getting this wiring kind of wrapped up together and ran how I want it, and put it in some wire loom. I've got some wire loom here, put it on there. I'm just gonna go through and kind of hold it, you know, where I want to, put like a wrap of electrical tape around it to just kind of hold it together in a bundle, and then we'll come back through and put the wire loom on it, kind of get it straightened out. We'll trim wires to length, you know. I need to put some ring terminal connectors on some of these over here where they connect to the starter solenoid over in that ballpark. And anyway, need to extend this one wire to reach over here. But other than that, it's all coming together. It's, you know, we're gonna have to trim a few wires, but that's fine. I ran them all along with the thought that I would need to trim some. So let's get it rolling. All right, well, I haven't put everything in the loom yet, but I've got everything ready to go. So I'm just tracing down all these wires right quick one time, just to make sure that I've got everything hooked up the way I think that it should be before we actually hook the battery up. And I'll tell you a little short story. The main reason why I'm really making sure to do this is right after I bought this thing, I was wiring some stuff up on it, and I had cut the magneto ground wire over there on the kill switch, and I had it running and was doing some electrical work with it. And since I had cut that, I couldn't just pull the switch and kill the motor, and I needed to shut it off. So I grabbed the wire that I had cut and I had stripped back just a little bit, and I touched it up against the frame to shut the welder off. But as you can see, it's got some paint on it. It didn't make ground. Well, I saw a stud sticking out of the back of a gauge, and I just thought, ground, and I touched it to it, and the welder shut off. Well, then I could never get the welder to start back up again. Well, then after I really got to looking at it, I realized that that stud that I touched it to was the back of the ammeter, and it had 12 volts going to it. And so I put 12 volts through the grounding wire on the magneto, which fried the magneto. And so anyway, I tried to rebuild it to no luck, and I ended up having to send it off to I think it's Weaver's Magneto or something like that in Ohio is where I sent it, and he did a complete rebuild on it and sent it back to me, and it was kind of pricey. That was expensive. Oopsie. About, if I remember right, I have to go back and look, but I think it was a little over $500. So I don't want to make that mistake again. So I'm going to trace all these wires down, and if all looks well, which I think it will, I'm going to hook the battery up, and we're going to give this a shot. Now I'm going to put the gas tank back on it, and I'm not going to wrap all this in loom until we know for sure that everything is the way it needs to be. But we ought to at least be able to kind of get an idea. All right, y'all. So I changed my mind. I went ahead and put the tank on. I'm pretty confident this is going to work. So now it's time to hook the battery up. So fingers crossed, let's hook the battery up and see what happens. Okay, I got the positive on the battery. The red light is on. I don't know how well you guys can see that. That's good. It's supposed to be on. So now I'm going to try to start it manually. I'm just going to go over there and try and start it, make sure that it'll start, run, make sure the kill switch works. Because I had the amp meter out earlier testing some stuff, and I had some continuity in some places I didn't think that I should have had continuity. So I don't know if that switch might have got jacked up. I don't know. So well, let's go see if we can get to start. Turn the gas on. See what happens. So she fired up and ran. That's good. Got a little bit of heat built up in the cylinders. So now, in theory, if I push A, it ought to start. And then once it fires, I push A again and it should stop. And then when I push B, it should shut it off. So let's see. Let's see if it'll at least shut off when I hit the B. shuts off. Well, that part of it works. We just got to find out why it won't start. So, give me a minute. I'll be right back. All right, so I got my voltmeter out and I did some testing around, and I think that I might have figured out where I went wrong. I believe that I wired this relay up wrong, and not wrong as in this relay from that relay. I think I wired this relay up wrong as in this blue wire here shouldn't have been wired up. The blue wire should have been, the yellow wire shouldn't have been. I think it should have been the blue and the red wire. So we're gonna do a couple of little tests here right quick, just to see what exactly is going on here. All right, yeah. So I've got the yellow hooked up to positive and the blue running to the starter. And how I should have done it was I should have had the blue can run to the starter, but the red needs to be hooked to the positive. So I'm going to take a jumper wire here and let's test this theory out. So there's the positive. Let me unhook this yellow. I don't think it's gonna matter, but unhook that yellow. Let me hook that to that. Now in theory, nothing should happen. If I touch these two wires, might be onto something here. Let's put these wires back in here like they're supposed to be, which is probably going to be easier said than done. They just don't give you a whole lot, these little terminals. Alright, so here's this. that should be off now. So alright, let's turn the magneto on and let's see. A little cold nature. I think it's going to work now. Let me turn the magneto off or back on. I think that'll work. I just had the relay wired up backwards. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, I guess. All right. Let me wire up another relay, and we'll give this an honest shot. We'll hook all the wires back up and we'll give her a real good shot. So give me a minute, I'll be right back. All right, y'all, here it is. Push B, that turns the magneto back on. Then we'll push A, she should fire up. Cross your fingers. I'm impressed. Let's walk down here to the end of the driveway and see if we can get it to work down there. That's I don't know, 40-50 yards maybe. I'm curious and excited. Let's try it. Let's try it from here. I mean, we're at least 150 feet away. Go all the way out here to the road. We may very well have made the first auto start SA200. I don't know that to be certain, but I do know that I've done some research on it and found nothing. So we might be pioneers here. Lewis and Clark, if you will. Here it is. The final product. I put some wire loom over everything. Doesn't look the absolute best, but yeah, it's fine. There's the antenna for that. See, it runs up through there. I think it looks really good. Let me get you guys back on the tripod. I want to talk about a lesson that I learned on this. I want to share with you guys. So after after we got it working earlier off camera, I started messing with it a little bit more, and I found out what could potentially be a very bad problem. This wireless relay here has got a latching mode and a momentary mode. So to briefly explain that, a latching mode means that when you push the button and let go of it, it turns the relay on, and the relay stays on until you push it again, and then the relay shuts off, right? Momentary mode means that when you push the relay and hold it, the relay closes, but the second that you let off of it, it shuts off, right? Well, I had it in latching mode because I thought, well, that's going to make things a little more convenient. And it does to a degree. But here's the problem. I was down there by the driveway, the end of the driveway, and I wanted to start this thing up. It was off camera. I pushed the button to start it, right? And it started, and then I pushed the button again to turn the starter off, but it didn't get signal from my little clicker, so the starter just kept on going, right? And so I walked closer to it and finally I could hear the starter over the engine trying, you know, so I finally got it to stop. When I thought about it for a minute, and I thought, you know what, it is convenient because you can push that. You don't have to push and hold the button, especially when you're killing the thing, because if it's in momentary mode, you got to push and hold the button until the motor completely quits turning, because if you let off of it, even while it's barely turning, this thing will pop right back off. So it's a little less convenient to have to hold it, but my thought process is, if I have to hold it and I lose signal, the relay is going to shut off, right? So I think that that's just going to be the safer, better option. So if you guys do something like this, make sure that you put it in a momentary mode, because you don't want to burn your starter up. That would kind of suck. So anyway, yeah, guys, this is it. I'm happy with it. I'm gonna throw the hood back on this thing, finish tightening down the gas tank, and I think that'll be all. I'm pretty happy with this. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. If this is something that you're interested in, you ought to subscribe, because you never know what I'm going to get into from day to day. I mean, it's all kinds of random stuff. So anyway, if you watched this whole video, I really do appreciate it. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.